Hello everyone, my name is Nikhil. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to cover Salesforce Security Part 2. This is in continuation to our previous video. Here we are going to cover some topics such as role sharing rules and manual sharing. So let's jump into roles hierarchy first. As you see in the video, we have two employees here whose names are Rob and Sam. Rob is a sales rep from Dallas and Sam is a sales rep from Houston. So we have one manager whose name is Tweet. He's a manager of both sales rep. So role hierarchy, what it does, if there are some records owned by Rob and some records owned by Sam, then they can be seen or edited by their manager Tweet. So Tweet has same access which his or her employee has. So in this case, Tweet will be able to see Rob and Sam's record. So let's jump into theory first, then we'll go into demo. So role hierarchy controls the level of visibility that users have to an organization data. By defining role hierarchy, we can share access to records. Users assigned to roles near the top of the hierarchy like CEO or manager in our previous example get to access the data or associated report of all users who fall directly below them in hierarchy. A manager will always have access to the same data as his or employee regardless of OWD setting. And for custom object, you can override this behavior by deselecting grant access user hierarchy checkbox. Just remember, we can't deselect this for the standard objects. And there are certain considerations that org limit is 500 roles, which can be increased if we raise a case with Salesforce. The best practice is to keep it under 25K for non-portal and 100K for portal roles. And another best practice is to limit to no more than 10 level of branches. Peer won't be able to see another peer's data. So in our previous example, Rob would not be able to see Sam's data and Sam would not be able to see Rob's data. In order for us to make Rob's data available to Sam, we need to go with sharing rules or team or territory management, which we'll cover after some time. Moving the user to another role requires sharing recalculation. So in background, Salesforce recalculate once we assign a role to a user. So let's quickly jump into a demo and see how this role hierarchy works. So in this demo, we are going to see this job application object where I see all the records. Some of the records are owned by Rob and some of the records owned by Sam. And these are some of the records I own. So actually I'm logged in as a system admin so I can see all the records. We'll quickly see what are the settings we have done here. For job application, I have kept it private. So which means owner can see his own records. And now one of the employees we are considering here is a Rob. So Rob has a permission set for sales rep Dallas, which gives only CRED access to the job application. And we also have a user here, which is Sam. And this user also has CRED and sales rep Houston permission set assigned to him. And we have another manager of Rob and Sam Tweet, and he has sales rep Dallas, and he also has cred assigned to him. So they all three would be able to see their own records. So let's see how it looks on Tweet's page. So if I refresh this page, I see that I cannot see any records of Tweet's employees. So Tweet cannot see either Sam's record or he cannot see Rob's record. So if you see, there are two records under Sam's name and this is Rob's where we have two records under Rob's name. So in this example, we are going to cover job application. I have logged in as system admin by my name so I can see all the records we have. Some of the records are owned by Rob and some of the records are owned by Sam. We don't have any records owned by their manager who is Tweet. Let's see what do we have in a sharing setting for job application. We have set private, and for the user Rob, Sam and Tweet, they all have cred access only to their job application, which means they can only see their own records. To confirm that, we'll first log in as Tweet, and here we can see I've logged in as a Tweet, and I'll just simply go here and see job application. I should not be able to see any record under his name. So I do not see any record. Now, similarly, we will see Sam's record. Sam owns two record in his name, and we can create another one just for the testing. So we have now three records under Sam's name, and we just got two records under Rob's name. Now, in order for us to enable this role hierarchy, we will simply go to setup and type role here. So we see all the roles here. Either we can delete them, we can set up as per our own business or companies, organizations roles, or we can simply just go utilize or leverage whatever role provided by Salesforce. So I'm gonna see the sales. I've already created three roles here: salesman, sales manager Texas, sales Dallas, and sales Houston. I'm gonna delete them. Okay, so I've deleted these roles underneath Sales Manager Texas so that I can recreate them in front of you. Here, I'll give Sales Rep Dallas. So we get this option by default. This is for opportunity. We'll go back. And we will assign new role under Sales Manager Texas. Sales Rep Dallas. Oh, I think I need to create Houston one. Now, as we see, we have got our hierarchy here for sales manager, sales rep, Dallas, and Houston created. Now, as per this example, we will assign sales manager role to Tweet and sales rep to Dallas to Rob and sales rep Houston to Sam. Either we can go and assign it here, or we can simply go to the user and assign it here. For Rob, we are going to assign Dallas one. And for this one, Houston, we are going to assign Sam. Now I'm going to assign Sales Manager Texas role to Tweet. and I'm going to save it. Okay, so now let's see if Tweet can see their records or not. So initially we were not able to see any record under Tweet. Now let's refresh this page. So as you can see, Tweet can see his own record, plus he can see their employees' records here as well. So now if Sam creates any record, then that will be shown um, in Tweet's list also. Let's simply see how we can do that. Let me refresh this. Let me log in as Sam. So I've logged in as Sam. I'm gonna see all the records which are owned by Sam, and I'm going to create a new record. Let's say Houston um, car repair. Let's say mechanic, expected salaries 30,000. Let's say once we save this, I'm gonna log in as I'm gonna refresh the screen on Tweet. Maybe I just need to log out from Tweet and come back as uh, maybe it automatically got logged in as a Sam, and yeah, we need to log out and come back as Tweet. So I'm logging in back as Tweet, and we will see if the newly record created by Sam is being shared to Tweet or not. So now I've logged in as Tweet, and I can see the record which we just created, Houston car repair, created by Sam. I'm able to see it here. So that's the purpose of role hierarchy, where manager, which is who is above the role, can see his or her employees who are underneath the role. Now we are going to go and see the sharing setting, which is the second topic of our video. Now, in order to understand sharing rules, let's go back to our previous diagram where we were explaining about role hierarchy. In role hierarchy, we were showing that Rob, whatever role was owned by Rob, was seen by Rob and by his manager. Same goes with Sam. Sam created his own records, he was able to see his records, plus his manager was able to see Sam's and Rob record. What if there's a requirement that any sales rep who are in Houston, let's say here an example that Sam who sits in Houston needs to share his record to a person who sits in Dallas. How, and they both are peer. So how this can be achieved? This cannot be achieved by role hierarchy because they are peer and we cannot give access, grant access to another peer through role hierarchy. So here sharing rule is something which comes to rescue you here. Through sharing rules, we can share records owned by Sam to Rob automatically. And how we can do that, we will go into a demo, but before that, let's see what sharing rules are. So there are two types of sharing rules. One is ownership based and one is criteria based. So ownership based means, like for example, any records owned by Sam, any records who are owned by Sam will be shared by Rob. So this is ownership based. Criteria based is if there's any field on that object where we say, let's say, okay, the record where the amount is greater than $10,000, that only needs to be shared. So field level criteria, if you need to put, that is a criteria based sharing rules. So basically they are used to create exceptions to your OWD setting. It extends access beyond role hierarchy. SR are not available if OWD is set to public read write. That makes sense because if it is public read write and everything is accessible to everyone, then what is the need of server sharing rules? Obvious um, ownership based sharing rules limit 1000 rules per object, and only there are 50 criteria based rule per object. Salesforce can increase this if you open a case and provide your justification, then yes, they can increase this limit. Here records are shared to roles, groups, or subordinate. We will see this in our demo. So let's jump to our demo here. So for sharing setting, we will just go to setup and write sharing, and then we will do sharing setting here. It's the same place where we set OWD for any object. So we'll click cancel here. So after clicking cancel, we can see all the objects here for which we need to create a sharing rule. We'll go with job applications. Yes, here. So first we are going to set any records owned by Sam. We are going to share it to Rob. So Sam to Rob. So how do we want this? Do we want this to be based on record owner or criteria? Then we have to select that option. So this is for external user, and we will select here a role, and here we will select sales rep. So let's see, he belongs to Houston, so we will select sales rep Houston role, and we are going to share with sales rep Dallas. So all the users who belong to this role, their records will be shared with all the users who belong to sales rep Dallas role. And we want read write access. So after creating this sharing rule on job application, let's see here. Let's log into Rob and see if Rob can see Sam's records or not. So I've logged in as Rob, and here I can see Rob can see his own records as well as he can see Sam's record. Now let's see what is criteria based sharing. So suppose for example we want to only share those records where the expected salary is above 90,000. In that case, this particular row will not be shared with Rob. Let's see how we can do that. So in that case, we can simply go in this one, edit, or we can create a new one, but let's add it to this one. Uh, wait a sec. Okay, I think we need to, instead of editing this, let's create a new one and let's delete this one. Or let's keep it this one, let's create another one. So both sharing rules needs to be satisfied in that case. So here's, I say greater salary 90,000. Here I say this. So criteria salary is greater than 90,000. Share with role, and here we will select sales rep Dallas. We'll say rewrite. So let's see. Now he should be Rob should be able to Sam's record, but only when the salary is greater, expected salary is greater than 90,000. So let's see and refresh this one. This one should go away. Now he should be able to see only 4 rows. So I've refreshed the page, and now here we can see that there are only 4 rows, and the row where it was $30,000 expected salary is not coming here anymore. The only slight change which we have done here is we have removed the previous sharing rule and we have just kept this one, and we clicked on recalculate. And now this is the criteria based sharing rule. Now let's discuss manual sharing. So let's read out what it says. When business requirement for sharing and visibility go beyond options available with ownership, PS, permission set, profile, and sharing rules, then we need to consider broad-based sharing such as teams and territories, or implement manual or programmatic sharing. It grants access to a specific record when other methods are not there, and if the sharing is a one-off action required by the record owner. I give very much importance to this word one-off action. So when a requirement comes where you just want one-time sharing of any particular record, and there's no sharing rule or OWD is helping you out in that case, and it's one-off time, then go with manual sharing. So in manual sharing, it's not an automatic assignment, just like we have sharing setting rules. The in manual sharing, a owner manually grant access to another user. So who can manually assign a record? It can be a record owner or user higher in the role hierarchy or system administrator. We need to consider that it grants access to a given record and all of its associated child records. Manually created share records are deleted when the record owner changes, including sharing associated with related object name. So if the owner changes, then whoever that owner shared record with, that will be deleted. So in order for a button to be enabled for manual sharing for anybody, we need to make sure that on sharing setting, we have this on sharing setting. If we click on edit button on org by default, then we have this checkbox and it should be enabled manual user sharing. Once it's enabled, then user can share one particular record to a particular user. So let's consider an example here. We have this job application. In our previous example, we were sharing all the records from Sam to Rob. Now we just want to share only one record of Rob to a Sam, which is we are considering that as an exceptional case scenario. So Rob has this Dallas IT Salesforce which he wants to share with Sam. So we'll just simply go to this record. My bad, I need to go and log in as a Rob. So I have here logged in as a Rob, and I'm going to click here. And we see this option of sharing. And I'm going to share with Sam. And I'm going to give only read-only access. So record has been shared with Sam. Now I will log in as Sam. I'm going to log in as Sam here. So it's loading up. So here we see that there's only one record of Rob which is being shared with Sam because it was manually shared. So this is an example of how we can share a record manually with another user. So this video is coming to an end where we have covered role sharing rules and manual sharing. In next part, we will cover some other topics such as teams or territory, and we will also cover programmatic sharing, how we can share and records through Apex coding. And in the end of the video, I'll just share some useful information. Here it says that each record can have only one owner. It can either be user, it can be queue, or it can be territory. We cannot have public group, we cannot have role, it can either one of these three. However, queue can contain public group. So indirectly, we can assign a record a public group, but via queue. So record owner has full access to record that they can read, write, delete, and transfer to other records. It means user have a responsibility for the records and its maintenance. Only parent object in master detail may have owner, which means child object will not have any owner. So that was the useful info. Um, Hope you like my video, and if you like it, please subscribe my channel for other videos. Thank you.